Now. All right. Good morning and welcome to the Auto Hub Show. We're going to start with a clip from a couple of our past episodes, and these episodes are on the topic today. So if you want to watch the episodes, you can check them on our YouTube channel or anywhere you get podcasts. Here we go.
The point of its life where it was now at a value point going to be more expensive to maintain than the actual dollar amount the car was worth. And it still could have got a lot more years left, but if she's gonna spend $2,000, $3,000 to fix something, something else down the line is gonna fix or break probably, in the next 2, 3 years. So she was at this point where she was car shopping and loved the Acuras and wanted to continue it, was servicing the vehicle at an Acura dealership, had a relationship with this dealership, was already a loyal customer, had been, going there talking to the service advisor about this whole thing. Well, how it prompted, as soon as she was looking to purchase, a newer pre-owned vehicle, all of a sudden everything shifted. So she originally got figures in the service drive, had worked with probably what I would assume to be somebody that was doing service equity mining or service
And good morning. So there's a few books that I wanted to recommend, and I was looking for books that were a little different this time. And what I came up with was these four. So Effortless Experience, The Customer of the Future, Talking to Humans, and Never Lose a Customer Again. Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, good morning or afternoon, everybody, depending where you are. Appreciate you joining us. And others who have joined us for the first time, thank you very much. And of course, most of the people who listen to us or see us after the fact, it's mornings. So today's the part 2 show of how we fix the way we deal with customers. And before I get into the disclaimer, I want to just quickly touch on our mission statement. And our mission statement is helping dealers fix how we do things one show at a time. And we're not a fancy operation, as you can see. We don't do fancy things, and really we do have a dream of having the Auto Hub Con one day, but that's way down in the future. But we figure that could be had in Grand Bahamas or somewhere. One day when Canada takes over Turks and Caicos, we can have it down there and then give everybody a really nice holiday. But we're working forward to make things better for everybody. And it's a real shame that we have to continue this topic. And this topic, the reason this is part 2, I'd like to use my French, is that the first show went on so well, and there's so much stuff. And we all know it was sparked by Sarah Van Tyne's post that we saw there about her friend that made a call on a dealership on a car. I'm not sure the details. Made the agreement, went to see it, and said, "I'm sorry, it's more money. That's just the way it is." Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting. So before we get started, of course, we will talk about our disclaimer, which is the views and opinions shared by those today are those of them and not necessarily of Ian Nethercon, Jeff Polo, and the Auto Hub Show, but most of the time it is. Ian.
And we will be going to Used Car Week in Scottsdale. And of course, I'll be attending SEMA. So if you're going to be at SEMA, make sure I'll see you there. I'm going to be doing video, and then we're going to be doing live interviews. If you wanted to be on live interviews or ambush interviews at Scottsdale, feel free to reach out to myself or Jeff, and we can book that in. So let's get into it.
So today we have, quickly going back to my call flow, we have 3 of the originals from the show partaking, which is Peter Smith, Doug Reeves, and Sarah Van Tyne, who's the author of this show, or the reasoning. And we're going to get you to introduce yourself. However, I want to do a quick little introduction too against my long-winded thing before. I saw a post this morning by a dealer, I believe it was Maple Toyota, and I tagged many of you on it. And it showed a screenshot of a salesperson replying to a customer saying they're not going to get their 2023 Lightning. And this is opposite of Sarah's one where it says, we're going to charge you more money. It was Ford stopped production. Well, of course they did, because they can't sell what they've got. But the communication was terrible. It was, well, here's why you're not going to get your truck. Sorry. And the worst part is right now, and I commented there, that the worst thing the dealer was going to find from this is not the incompetency of his staff, his salesperson, the managers that taught him, the GSM that oversees this, the general manager that whatever. It is that they got publicity, that they got their name out there of the silliness, because there's no penalty to anybody at the moment. Why cancel a Lightning order? Because guess what? They're not selling right now. And it's that attitude. So it's a real shame that we are dealing with people and we can't say to somebody, sir, something has gone wrong with the system. Please call me. Why can't they call them? Who knows? But first of all, we'll go to Sarah Van Tyne, the author of this topic, who I have to say another time. Sarah, thank you for joining us again. And please introduce yourself, and of course answer this first question today, but 30-second question. Has anything changed since part 1 in August? Yeah, it's only been 2 months, but can we hope?
Well, hi everyone. My voice is a little interesting. I'm getting over being sick a couple weeks ago. My name is Sarah Van Tyne. I'm the Vice President of Sales with Quantum 5. for an automotive training company. And, to answer your question, Jeff, so, there's been a lot that's changed. And I have the privilege to work with a lot of different dealerships across the country, and I have the privilege of being connected to a lot in my local marketplace as well. And one of the most glaring things that I've seen change has been this kind of panic about appointments and customers coming into the showroom. I don't know if others are experiencing this across the country, but I've talked to a lot of different dealerships that have told me this past weekend, on a typical Saturday, typical Friday, they're running 15, 30 appointments for maybe Saturday. And this weekend they had a whopping one appointment for the whole day on Saturday. And you can imagine what a panic that created for the general manager and the owner of that store. They were quickly looking at phone calls. They were quickly looking through old internet leads. They were, shaking all the branches of the tree going, everybody's got to call. We got to call these customers. We got to get people in. What's going on? And so I think just that itself is very telling about what is on the horizon for us as an industry.
Mm-hmm. It's actually interesting. There's something else I think it's telling us too, that we are still in that beautiful, very successful 100% reactive mode. Is that somebody suddenly went on Friday and said, wow, we only have one appointment on Saturday instead of Monday or Tuesday or whatever. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. That's a great point. And it's nice to see actually that we're noticing some change. In front of me is Doug Reeves, who is his thing. He knew I was going to call on him, so he appeared at the screen. Doug, thanks again for joining us. You're definitely not a stranger to us and our audience, but it's only been 2 months since August. Has anything changed in your eyes?
Well, I think there's a couple of things that have come up. One, I think there's an increased awareness perhaps across the industry about, again, focusing on the customer experience. But it was interesting today, I opened up Steve Greenfield's Auto Intel report, and there was a couple of things that stood out. One was that J.D. Power was reporting that loyalty to a brand is gone. People have kept their cars longer, and now they're open to looking at other brands and what they have currently. Wall Street Journal reports, and it's certainly true, it's more of a buyer's market now than it is a seller's market. Inventories are ramping up, but customers aren't buying. Between the strike and the economy, I think we're going to be seeing what Sarah indicated. Demand is going to start slowing. Customers are going to be holding tight, and those that buy are going to be a little bit more discriminating. And I think when you lump it all together, I think that there's the opportunity for dealerships to capitalize on this and really focus on a better experience. The question is, what will be the driving factor? What will be the tipping point that'll push them over the edge and saying, we've got to do something different?
Something your comment had a very good point to me. It hit me right here, boom, between the eyes. This post I mentioned this morning, or this screenshot of this fellow responding to the customer on the Lightning, is a perfect example. 2 months ago, he could do no wrong. I mentioned he because it was a male person. 2 months ago, he could do no wrong. All of a sudden, things seem to be shifting in certain places, and he's still doing what he did, and he can't understand why. He won't be able to understand why the guy's mad. The dealer won't be able to understand what happened. Why? What's going on here? It's great. And here they are. They can't sell Lightnings, and they don't know what to do. And it's not just Lightnings. It's going to start changing. That's a great point. Next, we have Peter Smith, who is the newly reborn Peter Smith, the man of positivity. He's letting out our conversations. What do you think, Peter? Have things changed since August?
Well, I would say, unfortunately, not. We're still in a reactive mode. We base our business on historical values, not being proactive and looking to the future. It's like with this Lightning, and I'm just going to go to the Lightning thing. This poor sales rep is going to get he's the sacrificial lamb.
Yep.
That was a canned email from upper management. It was a note that you can read it, that it was absolutely canned. Here, send this out to all Lightning customers. Bang, and just put your name to it. Poor guy probably won't work in the business anymore because his name is he's just mud right now, and it's unfortunate because it was not his fault. It's not his fault, but it's the way we look to this business. We do not look at it, and Brian, who's just sitting there shaking his head up and down, it put something out to one of my posts about we got to recognize we're in the hospitality business, and we are there to significantly help people have the greatest experience buying and servicing their automobiles. If we do that, we have long-term customer value, and that's how the business becomes successful. We can't do it in today's model, and the model hasn't changed. And until we see the paradigm shift, we won't see the changes.
Yeah, that's a very good point. The paradigm will shift on us, in my honest opinion, and we're going to be sitting on inventories up the wazoo. I commented to a friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about this. I actually mentioned you, Peter, where he said, well, dealers are charging over MSRP and everything else. And I said, we had a great opportunity. If we all got together, many of us got together and just said, let's sell at MSRP and start conditioning the business. So when things slow down, we don't have to discount heavily. We build on the experience. That profit level stays here the whole time. It doesn't suddenly go, whoa, let's spend money. Let's go buy ads or whatever. And that's what kills us.
Jeff, when was the last time you saw a sale at Apple? They sell on experience. They don't sell on product. They sell on experience.
It's
But it's
interesting.
funny.
It's interesting, Peter. I ran that survey last week, and I'll be releasing the results tomorrow on fixed pricing or market-based pricing. And the vast, vast majority of people that responded said the biggest positive of that was a better customer experience. It was just hands down. It's probably 3 or 4 to 1. I'll be interested when the final numbers come out.
The number of us have been in the car business long enough to remember Saturn. What was Saturn's customer service index like in comparison to every single domestic producer? It was the highest. Why? Because people went in there and they felt trust and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they purchased. It wasn't because
higher
Saturn
than
was a great
Lexus
car.
at the time, which was the benchmark.
Yeah.
Lexus was the benchmark for customer service and satisfaction, and Saturn was higher, and their cars sucked. About this before they had an ad. Hey, it's not like they've got jet engines or 6 wheels. Sometimes they only have 3 wheels.
But look at the cult following. They had a cult following.
Yep.
They had Saturday nights at the drive-in. They had all kinds of different things, and it was something to be measured upon. Now, why is that? Because they looked at it in a different perspective than we looked at it in this business. We often run this business like a car lot, not as the car business.
But also, Peter, and I throw this out to the masses, do you think it was the right idea, but at the wrong time? And we see that certainly manifest itself in a lot of areas, but you have to have a willing audience that's ready for it. And while customers were, dealers weren't, and our dealers going to be. And Sarah, you, with your vast experience, and you're all over the world, do you think more and more dealers are opening up to the idea of maybe there's a better way, or do you think they're still remaining stubborn?
It's a really interesting question because it really boils down to the leadership of the organization, and the directionality is ultimately going to influence the entire rest of the culture in the group.
Sure.
I will say one of the things that I have seen, which a lot of dealers are paying attention to now, is, in these organizations where the culture was hold gross, get them in, I don't care, we'll deal with the fallout later, just keep selling, keep selling, keep selling. Well, now they're experiencing this shift in the culture of the organization where they're not retaining their employees. People are leaving. People are going to other opportunities, and they're leaving those types of organizations. And sure, you could argue, well, there's probably people that are making a very successful income in that environment. But if you look at your whole sales team and you look at your whole service drive, how many people are you turning over to maintain that culture? And at the end of the day, that's the piece where a lot of dealerships are suddenly going, hold on a second, we got a massive problem. We are hemorrhaging talent. People are leaving left and right. I have to do something different if I want to keep my doors open, because otherwise I don't have people to serve my customers. I don't have employees that want to be here. They're upset about their treatment. They're upset about the lack of training. They're upset about all kinds of other facets that impact them in their personal and professional lives. And so the organizations that are making that shift and being more aware of, okay, well, how do I shift the culture? Where do I look first? Okay, get insights. You have to understand what's going on with your people before you can really influence and make those changes. Throwing training, a different pay plan at that kind of thing doesn't fix the culture. So you have to start there. And it is interesting because, the customer, they're going to dictate where this business goes and what they expect in that entire process. And so, the dealerships, I'm seeing it. I've talked to friends and, my own relatives' experience in buying a car, who by the way, absolutely loves her Acura MDX that she did ultimately buy from an organization that wasn't pulling her leg. Well, now that person, she is the type of person that will drive a car, take it to the dealer for maintenance. She is like clockwork every 6 months back in that organization. She wants somebody to be that person that she's hey, here's my keys. I just need, the maintenance done. Let's go. And we have to look at our businesses like that and think about that customer retention, but it starts with that employee retention. So I think the first answer to that question is, culturally in a dealership, how much talent are we willing to lose to other industries before we wake up?
Well, that's interesting too, that I'm seeing, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, but I'm also seeing that as you see the next generation take over these dealerships, they seem to be the ones that are, for the most part, looking towards this direction. Whereas the old guard that's still 70 years old and stuck in the past, I see Brian raising his head, nodding his head, they're not. But the younger generations that are taking over are saying, no, I want to do something different,
Doug, I can sum this up in 2 words for both of your statements. Dealership experience.
Yep.
As you have been promoting forever, we went from CSI to CX with customer experience. Now we got to look at a holistic global dealership experience. That involves your employees as much as it does your customers. We are experiencing, NADA put out their workforce study, and they said the average person in 2022 made $131,000 at a car dealership. The average person. Yet, the average sales turnover was 46%, and that was the lowest it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
They're anticipating a 70 to 80% turnover rate in 2023. Why? Because everything is changing economically, and we didn't take that investment of time and energy and financial resources and invest back into the dealership when we should.
Sure. Well, sure. And while Larry's sitting there loving it, he loves 80% turnover because it keeps keeps him going. But the fact is for far too long, and we've said this ad nauseum, this industry has provided jobs but not careers, and it's time to develop careers. And the hiring of today, their motivations are totally different. Ian, you brought up weeks ago, get creative with pay plans, get creative, find out what they want. I mean, they really have to take the blinders off and take a much broader view and say, let's get creative.
But they also need to really look at generations. And I think that was a great point earlier, when you see maybe the grandkid of the founder or the son of the owner or someone involved in a younger generation, they don't look at things the same way. And I think that's definitely going to shift the way they run the business, but more importantly, the way they attract and keep talent. I mean, we've been doing shows on HR for 4 years. I mean, they're unfortunately not well attended, but I would say that, if you can fix that problem, that's probably a good testament towards fixing the other problems in the industry. If you can keep the staff, at least you'll have the runway to potentially train them, right?
And here's something very interesting I've got to say.
And
There's as
I'm
many,
sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
no, sorry, Larry. There's as many, if not more, real estate companies as there are car dealers. I'm not talking the big ones, franchises, etc. There are, the old story when you see a realtor, member of the Medallion Club or whatever you have down in the States, the top 1% of dealers, of realtors, because the realtors only 1% do it full time to earn a living. But the interesting thing is this, they have one commission plan per jurisdiction. It doesn't matter whether it's Century 21, Remax, whatever the company is, the commission plan is set by the jurisdiction. They don't pay people to call and get an appointment. They don't pay them for doing a follow-up call. They don't change their pay plan if they are finance or not. They don't do anything. They get a set, consistent pay plan. We've always discussed this. We change pay plans for a dealership and somebody goes there because guess what? The flat's higher. Honestly, who should care about the flat? We just care about selling. And perhaps, just thought of this, perhaps if we get a little bit more organized as an industry and stop the individuality of every little thing, we can retain people and give people a career path. Larry.
Well, it's really interesting. Communication is the problem. The generation that's younger than us communicates in a vastly different manner than we do. When I started my training recruiting company, it's amazing that I didn't kill people because I just could not believe how many people would apply, and instantly, and I mean instantly, I would respond. Nobody picked up. Well, after I figured I don't want to have a brain aneurysm for being so upset, I just started texting. Now I happen to think texting, and I know I'm a dinosaur, is way less effective than talking to somebody. You can't hear the tone of their voice, you can't hear any excitement, and a great joke told personally looks like you're anti-Semitic, you're a misogynist, you're a racist. But understand that the sands have shifted, and we need to communicate more. They've got to feel like you're part of a team and part of something. If we don't do that, we're always going to have turnover. And all kidding aside, though, I'd be real happy if they put my recruiting business out of business and all I did was train. Because I have the same frustrations, believe it or not, that the dealers do, because people apply and I reach out to them. Either you can't get them, or they come and then they can't pass the drug test, or they pass the drug test and I'm so excited and they never show up again. I love the training part. The recruiting thing is what I have to do to keep the machinery all rolling along. But if we don't change the way we communicate, we're dead. And when I say we're dead, you're going to continue to have turnover. The economics are different. Everybody made so much money. Of course, look, every one of us, if we had a job and we were making $200,000, the guy called us and said, by the way, now it's 75, we'd look askew too. But as a bunch of you have said, if we had used the time and the money to build, to explain to people, that everything's cyclical and you'll have good times and bad times. And hey, make sure I saw your paycheck, Joe. I'm not being disrespectful, but make sure you put some money away. But if we don't learn to communicate differently, unfortunately, they're going to keep me real busy. Because the only true knock I have on dealerships, I hate people that criticize their own businesses. We tend to say one thing and do another. We're family, we're completely open, and man, you try to go up the chain, it's like banging your head on. So if we don't learn to communicate better to the level of people we're bringing in, we're lost.
I love that so much, Larry, for a couple of reasons. And, it's the communication piece is one of the biggest areas when you talk about dealership training. That is the most neglected part of what gets trained to salespeople and service advisors. And if you think about a customer interaction, sales or service, it's all these different branches on a tree. It might start in text message. It might start with a phone call. Now it's in person. Now it's going with the email. Now it's going back to text. That's how we do business today. It's how I do business when I shop online. It's how I communicate with my kids' school. It's how we all communicate. We are constantly bouncing between mediums. And the problem with a lot of the mentality in dealerships is so long we've had all this training approach where we've said, all right, road to the sale, it's 12 steps. This is how you're going to do it every single time without fail. There is no deviation. And then after COVID, we stopped really training people that were coming into our organizations on, well, how do you adapt to today's customer? What do you do? How do you communicate to these people? And, you know, Jeff, the email that you referenced earlier, that's a symptom of this entire communication problem. Like the lightning example that you gave, people really genuinely don't know how to communicate in this industry to their customers. And so from a training perspective, and I love, Peter, that you brought up the NADA workforce study, Quantum 5, we conduct that survey and we do all of that data compilation for the NADA workforce study. What's really amazing about when you look at the employee perspectives across North America, one of the biggest things that they're begging for is training. That is, bar none, you know, compensation, of course, people want to get paid and earn a great living. That's always going to be the case. It doesn't matter what industry it is. But the next thing that is most important to people right now that people are begging their dealers to have is better training. How do I communicate to a customer that's 15 days long in an internet lead that is ghosting me? How do I talk to somebody on the phone if I have to break bad news or maybe they didn't get approved at the finance rate that I told them they could get? How do I talk about this lease scenario that's going to be changing? We don't have a really great training platform in this industry to address that. And that's one of the biggest pieces that we try to champion at Quantum 5 to really communicate to dealers, hey, it's important for your people. They want this. We can help. There's people, there's companies, there's all kinds of companies out there that can help with this. But we have to be and the first step is really identifying that we have to, as an industry, be willing to go that direction.
And asking the customer, you have to ask the customer, how do you want to be communicated with? I mean, there's just, okay, let's call them, let's text them, let's email them, but each customer is probably a little different. That's my thought.
So
go ahead.
If I can,
Hey, let me throw an idea in here. Sarah, I don't know if you've watched it yet, but if you want to laugh your butt off, me and Peter and my crew, we did a live broadcast of our lethal sales from Baltimore, from a SodaCon. And basically what I did is I tortured everybody that walked by. I grabbed Ben Hadley, I called Paul Daly. Every single damn one of them has reached out to me and said, man, that was fun. If we don't make this fun in an era where people have incredibly short attention spans and demand to be entertained, this is why you always see people buried in their phone, because they need constant mental stimulation. So if we don't tie in with yeah, we want to know how to close and all that, but it all comes down to having people like you. And if you're fun, people like you. And if you're not fun, if you're not smiling, you're dead right from the jump. And I just don't see a lot, and I'm thankful for it. I don't see a lot of trainers other than myself that emphasize that if it's not fun, don't do it. Because if it gets too structured and it looks too grim, we're going to lose people, particularly the people younger than us.
That's very interesting.
So I just want to jump in here. I agree 100%. It's in communication. And the first key to communication is listening. We have to actively listen to our customers and understand what they want. At that point, we can provide critical thinking paths to serve them, and we're there to serve them. Now, one of the reasons for this call was a digital retailing experience. And I just want to put this out there. Everyone on this screen has traveled by an airplane. Every single one of us. We do it often. Now, in doing that, would we go online, look at an airline, look to buy a ticket, be forced to put in all our information, and then before they give us a price, go to the airport, unknowing if there's an actual seat, and put up with that? That is what digital retailing is for our business. We are in a situation that it's ridiculous. And do you know why Tesla's eating everybody's lunch? Because they do digital retailing the best. It's not because their cars are the best.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and Brian, I know you want to say something, I'll get to you in a second, but you brought up something, the same person I talked to yesterday. This fella, I'm looking at buying his old Infiniti. He bought a Tesla Model Y. He went and he looked at Mercedes, the experience was tremendous. Went and looked at Audi, great service, everything else. Went to Tesla, goes in, the person in the golf shirt said, yeah, go take a look at the car. How do I open the trunk? Press the button. Okay, what do I do here? Go to the computer. It's more than that. It's more than online. They built a desire. They built this weird thing. It's now people talk, really it's the strongest brand in cars right now. I don't care what you say, and I'm not a fan. But they don't treat people well. Their service stinks. You know that more than anybody else. Their cars are problematic. You know that more than anybody else. Why?
Consistency.
It's not because they do it right. It's not because the price is good. Their prices are dropping and people's used ones are worthless. It doesn't matter. At the moment, they can do no wrong.
Because it's about consistency. It's about consistency. And I think that's when you look at the best car dealers in the traditional model. No, when you look at the best car models.
Ian,
yeah.
Ian, I love you, but it's not about consistency. I love you. I completely disagree. It's about sizzle. I just heard my boy Peter Smith say, we got to find out what the customers want. The hell with the customers. Let's find out what the employees want, and then they can find out what the customers want. Because if you beat the hell out of your salesperson, by the time they get to the customer, they're rendered. But with Tesla, I hear horror stories and nightmares, but it's the sizzle, it's the excitement of it, and that's the key. When we start, we want to make sure we have the stake, but if we can't deliver the sizzle, we lose. And just to prove it, who has their hand up? The sizzler queen of all time, Wendy. Wendy, we'll let you talk, but we got to let Brian Moats in too. He gets very sensitive.
Welcome to the new moderator of the Auto Hub Show, Brian.
Well, all this is so. I mean, I love these conversations, and I've been fortunate to be involved in organizational development, talent development for the better part of the last 16, 17 years, and I've worked in other industries. I've worked almost exclusively in automotive as well, and a lot of the things we're talking about are just they're symptoms of a lack of structure, right? When it comes to people and people systems and dealerships, and it's not something that's just us. This happens a lot in retail, a lot in hospitality. When you're in dispersed workforces in retail locations, it's hard to do a lot of this. It's hard to do training because generally people are always on the clock. They're always in front of a customer, and so it's difficult to do any of that. And so, but we've been having a lot of great conversations. I've been very fortunate to be a part of David Long's All Things Used Cars, All Things Fixed Cops. A lot of the conversations here as well. And Sarah was 100% right. Up until recently, we've never really had a platform to really support these retail environments to do the things we're talking about. Really, even getting away from coaching or from training and getting it more into coaching and development and strong onboarding and communication systems across the dealership. And for lack of I'm not a shameless plug kind of person, but I've been very blessed to join Onboarding, and that's exactly what we solve for. We have a platform that really provides the basis in the platform. Not to say there's not a lot of hard work that still has to go on top of it. You have to have the right mindset to begin with as an organization. But a lot of times what ends up happening is we get people that have a lot of the right mindsets and a lot of the right beliefs of what to do, but then they leave and we haven't put anything in place from an organizational systems perspective, and then everything falls apart again. And the new general manager comes in, and the principal comes in, and he has to make it his way or their way, and everything goes out the window. And I believe we solve for a lot of that with what we do at Onboarding, providing that platform, that mobile platform to onboard, engage, communicate, coach, develop, and put it in a systems, right? So that when somebody leaves, it's still there. And that's what we've been looking for as an industry for a really long time. So, like I said, I'm not.
Brian, what you're really saying is car dealerships are like third world countries. A new leader comes in, they change everything.
100%.
Thank you,
No.
Wendy.
Go
ahead. Peter was going to say something. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, just give me 1 second to respond to Brian there. NADA has an onboarding program for technicians. It's 12 months long. there is no onboarding system for sales reps. Sales reps don't even get orientation. They're lucky to get a tour. There's your desk, there's your computer, here's your password. We'll get you your business cards in a week because we didn't know if he'd show up or not. We didn't want to spend the money. And there's a lock, there's key room, go grab a couple keys, go drive a car, come back, tell me what you think. That's the sales rep's onboarding. And that is so true, and I've seen it for 30 plus years in this business. It hasn't changed because the management doesn't have the time to train them. And then on top of that, we got to go look at coaching, as you said. Coaching will bring an additional 55% lift over training as we move forward. We fail to coach. Training's great. Yeah, the training is do 50 push-ups. Okay, what is that 50 push-ups going to do for you moving forward? Is it going to allow you more agility? Is it going to do this? It's going to do this. We have to focus on that, and we have to move forward with it. Go ahead, Wendy. Sorry, I just get a little passionate.
No, and me too, and forgive me, I had a client call, so I had to leave for a minute there. So I missed the first half, and I know it was absolute fire. And Sarah, I always love your addition into a conversation because where I've always been the worker bee that just jumps in and give me a phone, I'll fix it. All these years, I like you've been, not too long ago, you were in the dealership setting yourself. So you have the real world under the rooftop experience combined now with the passion that you have for data and at Quantum 5 and what you guys represent. I saw the operation right before you came on board, and I was out there with Dave O'Brien, and it's really quite impressive. That said, at the core of everything, guys, I wrote on an envelope because I never take notes and I never make a list, and I always put it off the cuff, but I always go off into different tangents and I don't stay focused. So in an attempt to stay focused, let me say that, yes, we need to know what the customer is thinking and everything else. Yes, it's about onboarding and everything else. Yes, we need to get, all right, let me split it up a little bit. Now, I always believe in a firm, basic belief of people, process, and accountability. Whether we're talking about the digital retail experience, which I think is fabulous, to Doug Reeves and Peter Smith's ventures now in getting closer to that to offer to our dealers. We still need the right people, we still need the right process, and we need to hold them accountable. We do need consistency, but also now with the introduction of AI, the communication that we give to our customers is even more important because many times when communication breaks down at a dealership, instead of coaching or training or building from within, or they have high churn, they try to put a Band-Aid on it and they outsource it. What's happening in your outsource space, ladies and gents, and I'm in the same space as well as I'm kind of a little bit of all of it, is they're all scaling so fast because so many dealers have broken internal systems and they're not converting the valid leads that they are getting, and they're not investing in training and coaching, or if they are, they're giving up if there's not an instant gratification within 60 days of whomever they try to bring on board, and they go right back to the way it's already been, and they're looking for that magic pill, right? So I think that, let's see. So another thing, some of the things we used 20 years ago, Car Wars, GoTo, Call Review is newer, but those services, they consumed all of our data from listening to our calls for the last 20 years, and boom, now they're an outsourced call center. They've never had for me, you have to get BDC, am I right, Sarah? You have to get it. It can't be taught if you don't have the passion. If you're not there for the people and for converting the leads and for whatever, if it's trying to be taught just to be salesy, you're not going to get it. You need that personal aspect. So what they're trying to do, they may very well be successful to a certain degree because of the data that's provided, and they're hitting all the KPIs, but are they actually improving the customer experience? And then with the outsource centers, I've had agents come to me from some of the big ones, you guys, and some of the big ones that are eating up the little ones, and I don't have to mention any names, we all know who, and some of them are great friends, but as they scale, they're not training and coaching either, and they're giving shit service. Sorry, there's no other way to say it. they're not representing your customers the way you need to have a representative, and they're not paying attention the way they are. And we're not demanding results from those we outsource to. So be careful who you get in bed with and make sure that it's gonna be a reciprocal relationship, or it's not gonna work. And really, really vet them properly, or go back to basics, guys and gals. It's basic phone skills. They have to learn how to sell an appointment, learn how to sell a car, learn how to overcome objections, because we're not selling cars like candy bars simply because they became available now. And the tide is turning yet again. Interest rates are going up, used car values are gonna go down. There's lots of crappy vehicles out there. Vehicle acquisition is on the rise from private parties. But at the same time, the big players with Cox are trying to get the dealers off of those platforms so that the only thing we can access is Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And we're getting shut down. So we have to be strategic, but we have to have the right people. Then we have to have a plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, is what I'm hearing in a number of different ways. It's been sliced and diced the last few days on social and at ASOTACon and everywhere. So we have to be strategic. We have to have the right people. We have to have processes. We have to review our processes. Most importantly, if you're going to get BDC training, make sure your BDM, or God forbid you have a sales manager overseeing the BDC, make sure they go through the training, that they're not answering the phones while their staff is getting the training and they figure they got a free day to do whatever because you're babysitting their team while you're training them. And that's all I got.
Hey, Wendy.
Yeah.
Thanks for not sugarcoating it.
You know, I want to put a question out to everybody here now, because we got way off the call flow, which is the best show as ever. We're talking about what we're not doing.
Right.
How do we get this point across to everybody? You know, I mean, of everybody that's on this call today, we're probably connected to 40% of the dealers out there. And let's go 20%. If we can get 20% to come around, how do we get them to come around? Just 20%.
Now we jump back to Ian's point with consistency. If we consistently make it clear how important it is to communicate, that I was on a show with Brian Kramer, and he said they had done a study with AutoNation. This blew my mind, where it's like $45,000 is the real cost to replace somebody in terms of what you lose in transition. But it's got to be consistent. Jeff, I'm working with the dealer group for, gosh, 7 years now. I do all the recruiting. They love when I train their people, but they've never hired me to do sales training. And I've been beating their ear for 7 years. And they finally came to me and said, we want you to come in. Like everything else. It's not what, this is why there has to be a frequency of commercials or a frequency of a message to have it come through, particularly in an area where people are terrible listeners and have short attention spans. We must consistently deliver the message that in order to not stumble or fall down completely on the job, you got to tie your people in, you got to make them feel part of the process. I'm getting tired of saying on every damn show who's not still having or who's not having sales service meetings, because you've got to make everybody feel like a part of the team and everybody have a similar vision and culture.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%, Larry, when you're looking at consistency, but more importantly, if you're doing training for training's sake, that's fine. But if you're not consistently training your team, I mean, back when I sold cars, I had a training meeting twice a day. I mean, was it the best training in the universe? No, but I did it twice a day, every single day. And the reason is that was a mandatory thing that the dealer believed in. Now, could they have hired trainers to do it better? Probably, but at least they were doing something. What I hear from a lot of people on multiple shows is, okay, yeah, here's the keys, go get her done. That doesn't mean that it's going to get done. But I think also that bar of experience, because of Tesla and others, has been raised. What was okay 20, 30 years ago is no longer okay. I mean, why are people switching brands? Why are they looking at different options? Because they're visiting less stores. They're making a judgment call on your brand before they even come in. Like, I'm not even going there. My phone was bad. The online experience was bad. The website was bad. I mean, they're making calls on your store before they even decide whether or not to show up. Right?
Look,
Can I ask everybody a question? Because it's mind-boggling. in the state of Virginia and in the state of Ohio, don't ask me why, it's illegal to write a referral or a bird dog check. But in every other state that it isn't, why wouldn't you, in a time when everybody's a little broke and things are so screwed up, why wouldn't we want to emphasize more than ever prospecting and communicating how important it is for them, not just cliche it, but how important it is for them to build their business within your business, of course, without the debt service. It seems like so many of these problems could be solved if we just looked in the mirror. We spend zillions of dollars as dealers trying to find outside ways to bring people in, but don't emphasize the service department or don't spend money on service. It all goes to, to variable rather than fixed. So I think with most things, if we just take a hard look at what we're doing and what we could be doing, a lot of these problems could be solved or at least mitigated.
Look, the way I look at this is there's I wish, and we talked about this before, I wish this became something that was so dang important that the NADA and large governing bodies would say, we have to do something about this. That they seem to just like, we'll look at reports and we'll produce reports, but we don't do anything about it. The second thing I think that needs to be done is, and Larry, you kind of hit on it. I mean, we have to highlight success stories. We do business with a group that, Peter, you'd be amazed. Their onboarding process for a salesperson is 30 days before you get to go on the showroom floor. And by the time you hit the showroom floor, you've spent time with a mentor, as well as you've gotten fully indoctrinated into everything. And they do it right. And there's other groups that they put service before sale. And they're immensely successful. And the results, are shown. I mean, every KPI is there, but customers love it. So I think it's a combination of, and as I said, I mean, I don't understand why it's not of more paramount importance, but the only way it's going to happen is consistently beating the drum, consistently sending the message, showing the successes that exist, and hoping that more and more dealers are saying, wait, that guy's killing it, I'm not, let's do something different.
I think the key here is you may have hit the nail on the head. We've got to get people like NADA and even NIADA and all the N's and A's and D's together and start communicate out to people that we got to stop being horse traders. And it really is. It's terrible. We started to do things in generality better. The pandemic hit, and we went back to, and now all of a sudden, most of them haven't got it yet, but the tide is turning. Unless you happen to be, selling a hybrid Toyota, an EV, whatever, except Tesla, the tide's turning, and you don't have waiting lists. And you can't say, if you want to buy, buy. You don't want to buy, I don't care to buy. I left out the buy.
Right, no, you're exactly right. I mean, it's only over time, this is going to change, but it's going to take a while, but we have to take care of it because everything works when you have a good dealership experience. The leads flow in, they're handled properly. The culture of the store is one of support, empowerment, coaching. Everything's great. Employees are happy, customers are happy. And you're the only people that are unhappy are your competitors who still remain stuck in the 1980s.
Doug,
I have to comment.
Sorry.
I just wanted to comment something. I thought of something here. We were involved with Wendy at NIADA, and she was doing something for another thing about a presentation. Quick vote, and then Peter, then Sarah. A quick vote. If we were to put forward a proposal for a main stage on how to fix your dealership with very little expense and no high-tech stuff, first of all, what do you think NADA's response would be? And secondly, if they did agree, how many people would show up? Peter.
I don't think NADA would agree because they're too entrenched in the political process of supporting all the digital attributes that fill their halls. So I think they're looking at, they're just as much a part of the problem as they are a solution.
And Wendy, you were the one involved in setting these things up. What do you think they're gonna say?
To be completely truthful, I don't have enough information about NADA. I've only attended
Okay,
twice.
anything, any one of these big events, who of them is gonna let anybody that says, we can fix your dealership in 10 minutes, who of them is gonna agree to have you do that?
So I think it's dependent upon the number of dealers involved on the panel is my answer. Because that's what I see. It's a boys club and its dealers do what all the other dealers in their 20 groups are doing. So I think you're gonna need at least a couple of dealers in there or somebody who's really well known and really positioned within the dealers.
Okay, let's go Steve Greenfield.
Well,
How many
or
do you
go
think
Sarah,
are gonna be there?
or go Sarah Valentine on the, and forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, Sarah, we don't chat enough. Sarah on the fixed op side and a master blaster on the sales side that's gonna bring the draw because she's very recently out of the dealership rooftop and she's in franchise. So, I mean, independents are my jam. So NIADA and AIADA that I'm working with now are completely different story. NADA, in my opinion, wants education as well as, well, yeah, they don't want to negate the need for what they're pushing, who their sponsors are and everything.
Perfect.
So, however, no, change your topic line and get them in and then do what we do. Do what you do.
So,
Jeff, there might be
Maybe
hope.
so.
There might be hope because I have a small lot that I helped him get some people. And the guy, went to his board and I'm gonna be next year at Caesars in Atlantic City. It's the Mid-Atlantic Independent Dealers. I think we have a better shot with the dealers than we do with the big organizations. I think the big organizations are a little territorial and looking to protect their own investment in the people they send up. That's just my opinion.
You know what, I would agree with you, and I think you'd have more luck. And I can tell you, when we started doing business with Brian Benstock, it was amazing how many people reached out to us because, hey, there's a successful dealer that was doing it. I want to find out about A to Z thing. So I think you're right, Wendy. I think dealers have more clout, but I think if you really want to be impactful, you hit the state organizations because you probably have a better captive audience. There's less commercialism in them to a degree, and you probably could have better conversations. And if you get enough state organizations doing it, then it'll blow up to national.
thank you. Sarah, Wendy mentioned you as the mover and the shaker. What do you think?
Well, one of the things that I've really petitioned across a lot of organizations that I've been a part of is you have to get more involvement from individuals that are leading your departments and not necessarily the head of the entire store. So one of the things that I notice quite frequently when I go to different conferences, it's the GM or the owner, but there's very seldom that you see dealer groups that say, you know what, I'm bringing my service managers, I'm bringing my parts managers, I'm bringing my BDC managers, I'm bringing my sales managers. We're gonna have collaboration from my entire leadership team in the organization. Now I can think of several organizations that do a fantastic job and do just that. They bring the whole entire entourage to these conferences to get more intel and to really inspire that learning across their organization. But we have to look in the mirror as an industry. Oftentimes what happens is we look at it and we go, yeah, the owner is going to attend, but there's no way I'm paying for my service manager to go to that conference. There's no way I'm going to have this person, my BDC manager, attend any of these sessions because they don't see the value in the education. Now, what I will say that one of the things that I've really loved about the Fixed Ops Roundtable has been that digital environment where you can enroll anybody. There's no charge. And it's a platform where anybody in your dealership can attend any of those sessions and they're already recorded. So if you miss one and you want to watch it later, they have the ability to get learning and do that. So that's the thing I think as an industry, we have to have that conversation around is we can't just keep having the same individuals at the top of the totem pole coming into these thought leadership segments because it doesn't get down to the people that are really the ones in touch with the customers in their organization and really the ones that are making and driving that retention in their dealerships. We have to, as an industry, really have that conversation around how do we create events that are more inclusive for all of our leadership to attend? How do we create learning environments where we feel comfortable investing in their education so they can take that back to their teams?
Interesting. And it's very funny. It goes right down to this. How many times at 20 group meetings do you see anybody but upper management at 20 group meetings? You know,
Right, you never do. The people in the trenches are the people that the message has to be delivered to.
So,
well, actually, it's because the people in the ivory tower, I don't mean to be snide, the people at the top don't want to share that information. In many cases, they don't want them to know what's really going on. They don't want them to hear, you know, that they're actually doing quite well instead of losing their shirts. And they don't want to hear that the fact that everybody else is how they're doing.
Right.
the problem
The fear of the
with
past.
it all, the problem with it all is fear. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of loss. It's the fear of everything out there. What dealers have this fear if they send someone to a show that they're going to lose them to another dealer because they're going to be looked upon as this is a superstar. This is the reason why he's there, and he's going to be poached.
But then we do everything in our power to make sure they leave.
Yeah. So and the other thing is, it goes back to that old saying: if I train them, what happens if I invest and I train them and they leave? What if I don't and they leave anyways?
Yeah.
It's just a reciprocal piece of.
Peter, that quote is actually uglier than what you stated. It's the manager says, what if I pay to train them and they leave? And the other guy says, what if I don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
Well, and then let's face it, their attitude has to be, they have to be so good that everybody wants to hire them, but our organization is so strong, they'd never want to leave.
Exactly. And
Can you
you
imagine if
put
they
out a
haven't-
post. I just wanted to say one thing there. Doug put out a post, I think it was last week, about Nelson Mazda in Oklahoma.
Yep.
And how they operate their business. And that is, in my opinion, one of the strongest models I've seen in a long time.
Yep.
Jeff, we are out of time.
That's right. We're getting running late. Another great, another great fix that how we gonna fix things, and it's quite fun when Ian and I have to sit there and go, oh, can I say something? Oh, you know. Those of you who might remember Horseshack, not many of you do.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, exactly. Thank you, everybody. What a great show. That was a lot of fun and a ton of information, and maybe one day it might work.
Thanks very much.
Being consistent in our message, we'll get there.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Have yourself a great week and a great start to the new month.
Yeah.
Thank
Happy
you.
October.
Take care.
Yeah.
Oh la la. What?
Thanks for joining us. It was a great show, and follow us anywhere you would like on your favorite podcast, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and of course on our YouTube, or subscribe to our own channel.
I was able to download it by I actually captured it from the